Okay. This is a good one. Distilling all of the wisdom that we have here. How can I practice habit 5 properly? What's habit 5? It's seeking first to understand, then to be
And to be
understood.
understood.
Any tips? And here's a little bit of backstory, right? It's already hard to listen empathically, but it becomes way harder when you do it and the other party does not reciprocate.
That's true. That's true.
May kwento to.
Okay.
There's a story. So how can I practice habit 5 properly? Any tips is the question.
Seeking first to understand before seeking to be understood.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I found that difficult at the beginning. I realized that it is not only Filipinos who found it difficult. All over the world, it's difficult. Why? When did I discover? When with version 4, they had to put up skill cards. Practice cards.
Right.
Yeah, so for those who are not
Yeah.
familiar, if you join the latest version, okay, of the 7 habits, when you go through our experience, we have what we call skill cards, meaning there are prompts and there are practices of what to do, what you can practice to be able to practice this skill. So you're telling us, Lirio, before, this wasn't a thing, these skill
No.
cards.
The skill cards are new. There would be practice sessions, but the skill cards are new, and then there are additions to it. All right. It has to be based on this principle or this belief, no, that to build good relationships, you've got to understand one another. Two people have to understand one another in whatever relationship it is, okay? And so what better way to understand the other person but to listen? Unfortunately, we have all been, especially you're a teacher, you're a manager, when someone asks you a question, immediately you give an advice.
Mm-hmm.
You give an answer. Oh, when that happened to me. Okay. So we do that. But what I really learned in the 7 habits, empathic listening. Empathic listening means you first clarify if you understood the other person. And the way to do that is to describe what you see as the person's feelings about certain situations. So there is a formula in empathic listening, as in, okay, if somebody told you, I lost my job. Siyempre, maraming gayon ngayon. Many are losing their job. So what do you say? I really think you feel so terrible about this situation today, right? Because it has caused you to lose your job. So just to reflect the feeling, to check whether I've understood what the other person is telling me. The point there is to make the speaker feel understood.
Mm-hmm.
Feel understood. And then it says, yes, I feel that way. Okay. Then you ask a clarifying question. Would you like to tell me more? What losing the job means to you? Ask a clarifying question. Okay. And then continue to until sometimes people just want to be listened to.
That's true.
Not to be advised.
Yep.
Not to be advised.
Amen.
Not to
that.
be yes. So your question was, how do you
practice properly?
Properly empathic listening? You just describe the feeling as you saw it, as you felt it. No. Because somebody else can tell you, hi, I lost my job.
Oh, it's the best thing that could have happened to that person, diba?
At least that's the way it seems.
It seems to me
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
really so happy about losing that job. Really? And then now I'm free.
So there's the formula, and then there's there's reflecting back the feeling. And then there's
Yes,
asking
you
the
reflect
clarifying
back.
question.
Yes.
Okay. What?
But the questions we ask should come from what the speaker said,
Mm-hmm.
not what is in my mind. Not what's in my mind, because I could ask, why? What job was that? Oh, where is that question coming from? It's coming from my head, right? Okay.
It could not be relevant anyway what the job was to what the person's
Yes,
feeling.
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you know, why did you lose your job?
Kasalanan pa niya. Parang ganun,
Coming sa akin, coming from me. Okay. So that's empathic listening. And the conversation can go on but if the person says, Lirio, if you were in my place, what would you do?
Then, yeah.
Then I can now respectfully seek to be understood. Okay. That person's already seeking advice, seeking options, etc.
Right.
But until that comes, the person just wants to be listened to.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone comes to you and gives you stories about herself, what they want and all that, how they feel. Then afterwards, they say, thank you for your time. Thank you for your listening. That's it. That's all they want. Yeah.
Because that's all that they wanted, right?
That's true.
And you see, when we respond with empathy and just ask only clarifying questions, the person speaks, and as the person is encouraged to speak, he or she hears himself. And on their own, they may find the solution to whatever problem that is. Because they are listening to themselves. They're articulating how they feel.
Yeah.
Lippy, what do you think?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like really just giving the person space.
Yeah.
And Lirio's last part of, it because I'm a professional coach, it sounds to me like a lot of good coaching that's happening. It's allowing the person to vent and let it land for the person.
Well, in psychology, it's called non-directive counseling.
Okay, there you go.
Non-directive counseling.
Non-directive counseling. You don't direct, you just ask good questions.
That's pretty clear right there.
That's pretty, yes.
And this is why the psychiatrist has this divan, you lie down and then asks you many questions and then charges a lot. Okay?
Yes.
But it's really non-directive. Helping the person understand himself, find out what's really deep inside, and then exploring options, helping the person explore options. Okay? And if he has 3 or 4 options, you explore the consequences. You ask him, if you do this, what will it get you? What will it get you, Okay. Helping the person find the consequences of specific options.
Yeah.
If I may add, I think if I were to read through the question again, it strikes me as the one who brought up the question having had an experience or probably several experiences where he or she actually tried to practice habit 5, and yet there seems to be a strong sense of frustration. So it says it's hard enough, and then what happens, or it becomes harder when the other person does not reciprocate. So I think this is the last part is where I'd like to jump in, because I definitely agree with Lirio. It's all about reflecting back feelings and allowing the other person to feel understood. Interestingly, just a while ago, probably just an hour ago, my wife and I were having a conversation, and she said something like, I think that's what most mothers feel, or they just want to be seen, or they don't feel seen. And in my head, I was thinking, that's true. And I also feel that it's probably something that many people nowadays feel. It's probably not just about mothers. I think most people want to be seen, or want to be seen more than they feel they're seen. And I think I'm relating it to this because really that's what Habit 5 is all about. Earlier, Lirio talked about the formula, and really the first part of the formula is just the intent to understand the other person. If that isn't enough, then going back to Lirio's introduction where she talked about mission or her end in mind, my recommendation would be to look at or ask the question, what is my end in mind in this whole conversation? Particularly when it comes to that part of when the other party does not reciprocate. Yes, there's frustration, but I think, and I bring it back to end in mind, because I would assume the end in mind in the conversation would be to come to some sort of mutual understanding, or at least to come to some sort of effective realization, like Lirio put it. And so I think you just go back to just that end in mind. At the end of this, I want to have mutual understanding. And then Lirio brought up the idea of consequences. And then perhaps at the point where the frustration kicks in, or you kind of just want to go, you know what? I don't feel like you're understanding me. Why don't you just do this? Perhaps ask the question, if I did this, what would happen?
Yeah.
Because if I were to put myself in the shoes of the other person, it would be, oh, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to listen to you either. Let's just drop the whole conversation.
From my experience, if the person really felt that I understood him or her,
yeah,
the desire to listen, it is contagious.
Increases. Yes.
It is contagious.
Yeah.
When you truly listen to someone, sooner or later the person will say, "That's interesting, no? Okay. What do you think about it?" They will ask you already.
Yeah. It's true.
That's a sign. That is when they start asking you what you think or what you would do in your thing. That's a sign that they are ready to listen. Before that, I would never advise. I'd never advise unless asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
And that's why, because you said, what if the other person does not listen? That means you have not listened.
Or they're not yet done.
That means, you're not yet done listening. And you probably, why can you say the person does not reciprocate? Why do you want the person to
agree
with what you're saying?
Yeah.
And that means you've advised.
Yeah, and it's not empathic listening. It's
not.
autobiographical,
No
as we call it.
Yes.
And again, if this statement connects with you, if you're listening in, if it lands for you, this is also a challenge of self-awareness. You find it becomes way harder when you do it and the other party does not reciprocate, but contagious. And there's a psychological term. It's called mirroring, right? Whatever energy and approach and attitude I bring all has an influence on the other person that I'm speaking to. So for all you know, the person could be reciprocating. You're just not aware of what you're trying to do to this person, right? Notice what I'm saying, what you're trying to do, rather than having an intention to understand it.
Yes. So
the person might be reciprocating. You're just not seeing what you want because you're not being mindful of what it is that's happening in that moment.
Yeah. And I think the important part there is if you look at the 2 parts of Habit 5, seek first to understand, then seek to be understood. Understanding is different from agreement or following. So it might be that the other person actually does understand. Maybe they just don't know to express it, but maybe they're not following. They have a different opinion.
Yes, and the way to do that is after you sought to understand, assuming now that let's say the discussion is about a problem that like in the organization, like it's a situation, and the person has expressed, other person has expressed it, and you've tried to do empathic listening, and then after that, before you seek to be understood, ask the question. I have heard you. Would you like to hear my point of view? I mean, bumusina ka muna.
I think that's the whole point.
Bumusina ka muna. Pag sinabi niyang, no, never mind. Okay, that's all right. That's fine. Huwag kang mamimilit. Another time.
Yeah.
Another time might come.
Everyone listening, big tip to ha? Big tip to. Hindi na maganda. Bumusina ka muna.
Yes, agree. And sometimes perhaps that's the secret, diba? Kasi kung wala yung busina, mukhang inaaway mo, for example, diba? Versus yung may konting, pwede bang ako naman? Or can I say something?
Yeah, otherwise, you just look as if you're the guy or the girl who just barges in, gives unsolicited advice. Diba?
Yes.
Kamusta naman yun? Papasok ka lang. Alam mo, dapat itong ginagawa mo. Out of the blue.
Tapos diba? If I were the other person, isipin ko, teka lang. Ako yung nagkukwento dito. Ano nangyari? Yeah.
So those are some solid tips. Okay, thank you for that. For being able to practice habit 5 properly.
Just to
I want to throw one thing, Pao, before you go.
Go.
And this is my offering to everyone because I've struggled with this already. How can I practice habit 5 properly? I would focus on the practice word of this statement rather than the properly word.
Agree.
Because if you put pressure on yourself, it has to be, Nako, Lirio taught me how to do habit 5. She put it so clearly in a formula. I've got to do it.
The beginning, the very first thing is in the head. In your head.
Right. Yeah. So practice it here
your
first.
Intention muna. Ano bang intention?
Yes. What do I want?
Okay. What do I really want? No? And also, how do I see this person? Yeah. Kasi our biases will influence the way we listen to this person.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's, I have grandchildren living with me. And then the tendency to preach is always there.
That's true.
So I have to say, look, clear, no? The intention is, to understand. The intention is to understand, not to preach, not to argue. Okay.
And I think Lippy mentioned this earlier. I think self-awareness is the key. And if not only self-awareness, at least a sense of honesty. Because at the end of the day, if your intent is you want to give direction, then at least be honest with yourself about that.
Sabihin mo na lang.
Oo, hindi siya habit 5, di ba?
Just say it. This is my intention. This is what I'm seeing. I want to be able to give you a bit of direction here.
Yeah.
Sabihin mo na lang.
Yeah.
Yes. So maybe it's that. Go back to the intent and be clear about what the intent is. So we hope that helps. Follow-up clarification daw.
Okay. Mukhang maganda to. Because this seems like a live question. Live. So follow-up. Yung question daw is not immediately na nag-reciprocate during the other person sharing. Then when you come with a problem naman, dun mo na-feel na baka hindi daw niya rin reciprocate yung empathy.
Okay, so in the relationship, para hindi balance.
Okay. Lirio, what do you think of this?
If it's my share, ako na ngayon magsasalita. No? I'm the speaker now and the other person doesn't want to listen.
Parang ganon.
It's not listening.
Or baka nag-advise ka agad.
Okay. I would not push. Kasi when the other person does not listen, you don't feel like talking, right?
Yes.
You don't feel like talking. Walang gana ka.
Yeah.
Para kang you're talking to a blank wall. And the tendency is, not ready to listen to you. So I wouldn't push.
Yeah.
I wouldn't push. Maybe we should talk about it another time. Yeah, right?
That's true. Because when in my experience also, when I coach other people or even at home, there's such a thing as right timing, and my wife always reminds me na we can talk about it, but now is not the right timing. Pwede mamaya, but that's one perspective. There's a right timing thing to it. I agree.
And I think, if I may add, earlier we said go back to the intent, no? In terms of nung tayo yung listener. What I'm hearing here is separate scenario, entirely different conversation, maybe a different day altogether. So kung ganon, then maybe what I'd advise is, if you've had several experiences na ganito and it feels like the other person does not listen, maybe state the need up front and say that when you sit down and you say, do you have 5 minutes? You have 30 minutes? I need someone just to listen to me. That's all.
Okay, that's fine.
And then if it doesn't work, then maybe as Lirio put it, then don't force it. Maybe it's just not the way that dynamic works.
Or just to challenge this, or if this relationship is not all that important. Alam mo yun, this is a topic that an example, if it's not a strong relationship like a close friend or husband and wife thing, but it's a coworker that I just want to be able to relate better to.
Parang komportable lang.
Baka hindi siya talaga ganyan. Wag mo siya pilitin na gawin, 'di ba? You can just go to someone else. Maybe this person, is not the best, or is not just in that space to do it.
Or it may not be the right time.
The right
time.
Okay.
Yeah. And just to jump off what Lippy said, if it is an important relationship, then I think the relationship would have at least that space enough for you to say, right now, what I really need is just for you to listen. And then don't worry, later I will listen to your advice. I think if the relationship is strong enough, there's a way that
There's
you can
a
say
way.
that.
And then as they say, pick your battles.
Yes.
Yeah, Lirio, tell us a little bit more about that. Kid. How do we do that?
A long time ago when we were newly married, I am a person who likes color combinations and all that. And here, why is that your pants and your shirt doesn't match? That doesn't matter anymore. Pick your battles. What things that are really essential, it's important to discuss is fine. Okay.
All right.
Okay, well,
Pick your battles.
Yeah, pick your battles. Be clear about the need, and I guess gauge. as you
Yeah,
put it,
your
Lippy.
intention, your what
Yes.
desire, what is the impact?
What is the
But
impact?
frankly speaking, sooner or later, natuto rin na rin siya. Natuto na rin yung husband ko mag-match.
So it's another way of teaching him, di ba?
Slowly lang naman, slowly. And then eventually, we would ask na, ito bagay ba to? Okay. Okay. Oh, yan. Ngayon, okay na.
Ano pala to?
Ang tagal-tagal ng years yun,
How to train your husband 101. Number one, don't have too quick expectations.
Then, tsaka pick your battles talaga. It's not important. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.